Howdy, welcome back. When I last left off, I was discussing the topic of personality, and we talked about self-esteem, talked about the big five, and I discussed the difference between the fact that personality is the long-term way a person feels and acts, and that moods and emotions are more the short-term way a person feels or acts. And yeah, the last example I gave was a discussion on self-esteem, and my friend Shep, who has very high self-esteem, and how his high self-esteem led him to become the senior vice president at the fifth largest bank in America. Anyhow, continuing on. Hi, Shep. Next up is the needs theory. Needs theory says, this is McClellan's needs theory, and what he's saying here is that everything that a person does, he or she is doing to satisfy one of three basic needs, okay? And those three basic needs are a need for achievement, a need for power, and what's called a need for affiliation. Let's start with the need for achievement. A need for achievement is simply this. Remember when I talked about conscientiousness, the need to do something good? The need for achievement is exactly that. It is the need to be really good at what you do. So people with this need are going to work harder because they want to be good at what they do. At the last place I worked at, last place I was teaching in America, again, I had the same students in class after class after class. And I had this student, Carrie, Carrie is a friend that I've kept in touch with for almost 20 years now. And when she was a student in my class, she always had to be the best. So after every test, after every exam I gave, Carrie would come up and ask, was I the high scorer in the class? And I was like, Carrie, you're getting an A in the class. You're getting an A. And she's like, I know I'm getting an A. Was I the high scorer in the class? This is a very high need for achievement. For her, getting an A wasn't the question. For her, I have to be the best in the class. And so that's a very high need for achievement. The need for power is the need to influence other people, to have, the need for power is a need, when you hear the word power, think of influence. What power really means is the ability to influence other people. And so some people have a very high need for power. They do what they do because it's their goal to influence other people. And the other trait is the need for affiliation. Affiliation, in this case, means friendships, relationships. We as human beings are social creatures. We need to have other people around us. Okay? So the need for affiliation is our need to have relationships, our need to have people around us, people that would care for us, and vice versa. So what this trait theory says is that everything you do is to satisfy one of these needs. Maybe you're in this class, well, since we're online, I'm not sure if this is true for you, but some people come to class because they have a need for achievement, they want to do well. Some people come to class because, well, not for class, I hope you don't have a need for power, but they do things because they have a need to influence other people. That would be a need for power. Or maybe the reason you come to class is that you have a need for affiliation. You are coming to class because you want to meet and talk to other people in your class, okay? So it says, the needs theory says everything you're doing is to satisfy one of these three needs: a need for achievement, a need for power, or a need for affiliation. Now, a couple definitions on this page. The term values. The word value simply means what's important to you. Some people value money. Some people value religion. Some people value friendship. Some people value their cat. Whatever. Value simply means what are the things that are important to you? What is valuable to you? The term attitude is the way a person thinks about the world around them. So we refer to somebody as having a positive attitude or a negative attitude. And attitude is more long-term than mood and emotion. Because again, the terms mood and emotion are short-term. And I think the term norms, I think we had that before, did we not? Norms are the, as the book says, the unwritten informal codes of conduct. What that means in easier English is that there are norms, there are accepted ways of doing things, and that's just a norm. What is the accepted, what is the way it's supposed to be done? It may not be written down, but you know that this is right or this is not right. The term norms. A value system is the way that you think, how you think about things in your life is your value system. What are the things that are important to you that lead you to do what it is you do? And something that's referred to as a terminal value, this is like what motivates you in the long term of your life. Instrumental values are, to relate it to something in an earlier chapter, the instrumental values are like the benchmarks to achieve your long-term goal. Instrumental values are how, to achieve my goal, how am I going to act? What am I willing to do? How am I going to act? To be honest, I don't think I'm going to give you any test questions on instrumental values, but it's the idea of understanding what a value system is. That's what's important. The value system is you know, how do you view the world? What's more important to you? Actually, I talked about values when I discussed the Myers-Briggs personality. I discussed that some people on the thinking versus feeling, I said that some people prefer logic and being fair over being kind. Both are valid, both are good concepts. Being fair and being kind are both important, but sometimes being fair means you can't be kind, and vice versa. So a value system is what's more important to you. Okay? The term job satisfaction. This is extremely important to companies. Companies want to know if their workers are satisfied. Makes sense, right? And by the way, it's important to know here that the word satisfaction does not mean happiness. So UAEU doesn't necessarily care if I'm happy. They want to know that I'm satisfied. Because let's face it, any job you take, you're going to have days where you're happy and not happy. Satisfaction is a measure of, am I okay with things? Are things the way I like them to be? And why this is so important, why companies look at job satisfaction very closely, is that people who are satisfied will have a higher organizational commitment. And what this means is when you are committed to something, it means that you're going to be more likely to work hard. People who have a higher commitment are willing to work harder for the organization, for the company, for whatever it is. So the belief of organizational commitment is, why it's so important is that people who are more committed believe in the project, believe in whatever the mission of the company is, why we're doing this. People who are committed are more proud of what the organization does. People who are more committed are going to go above and beyond and achieve more for the company, more for the organization than people who are not committed. And let's face it, people are less likely to quit. So think about this in your life, in your classes. If you're in a class that you don't like the class, then you're more likely to skip the class. You're more likely to you know, achoo, oh, I'm sick, I can't go to class today. Or, you know, you'll come up with excuses not to do something. When you're committed to something, when you believe in it, then even if you are feeling sick, you come to class. Although, in COVID world, please don't come to class if you're feeling sick. Anyhow, sorry, anyhow, I started thinking about COVID world. So, the idea of organizational commitment is the idea that if you are committed to something, you care about it. And if you care about it, you're going to work harder. You're going to go above and beyond. You're less likely to quit. And these things are very important to companies. You want employees who are committed and that have good job satisfaction and want to go above and beyond. And again, moods and emotions, talked about this before. Moods and emotions are short-term, how you feel, positive, negative, so forth. Okay. Where I'm going to end this video, the second of the three for chapter 3, is on the topic of what's called emotional intelligence. Now, when we talk about intelligence, there are what they call IQ tests, intelligence quotient tests out there, that measure how smart somebody is. And in this case, smart doesn't mean the things you know, it means how easily you learn new things. So people with a very high IQ can learn new things quicker than people with a lower IQ, okay? And there have been IQ tests out for, I don't know how long they've been out, but they've been out for a long time. In the early 1990s, they developed what they call a measure of emotional intelligence, okay? So it's kind of like the IQ test that I talked about, where you can see someone's intelligence, but this is looking at emotional intelligence. And here's kind of the point of emotional intelligence. Since I'm ending on emotional intelligence, I'm going to go away from the slide here. Now, the point of emotional intelligence, I actually think is very important, because what it's saying is that there are some people in the world who are very book smart, but perhaps don't act very mature. And there are other people in the world who are very mature. You can trust them with anything. You know that they're a solid person that is going to do what they say they're going to do. But they may not do well on tests. They may not be book smart, okay? And so if all you do is look at someone's IQ, if all you do is look at how smart they are, you're not looking at the whole person. And so emotional intelligence is trying to look at the psychological side of a person, how stable they are psychologically. So in theory, I believe emotional intelligence is it's as important as IQ is. Measuring how responsible, how mature someone is, that's important for a workplace. It is. It's important for any organization to have people with a high emotional intelligence. Okay? But to be honest with you, I've seen a dozen, at least, oh man, probably, I've seen dozens of tests that are supposed to be measuring emotional intelligence, and I haven't seen a good one yet. And it's been a while since I've looked, so maybe there are some good ones out there. So I understand the theory of emotional intelligence, but I don't know that I've found a test that actually measures it. But you know within your group of friends, within your family, the people who are mature, solid, trustworthy, they're going to do what they say they're going to do, and then the people who are lower on emotional intelligence and are more likely to scream at people or not do what they're supposed to do. Okay? So this concludes the second video for Chapter 3. There's only going to be one more, and it's not going to be that long, I promise.